All right, we're back. We're on page 323, and we're going to talk about curve sketching. So there's actually nothing to really do on this page other than to think and to understand. So here's something you probably never thought about. In every function that you have ever seen in your entire life, there are only 7 basic shapes that show up. So you can stretch them, you can tilt them a little bit, but there's only 7 shapes that could possibly show up. And I have summarized them in this table. So the 7 things that can happen are based on the fact that your second derivative can be any of 3 different, your first derivative can be any of 3 different things, right? You can have f prime greater than 0, which means your function would be increasing. So you're going to have some things that increase, you're going to have some things that decrease, and you're going to have some things that are just horizontal. As we all know, horizontal things, not a lot of options, right? Horizontal lines, that's the only option you can have. So then you can have 3 different things happen here. You can have, I'm trying to like set up my colors here. You can have a second derivative that's positive, a second derivative that's negative, a second derivative that is 0. If there's no concavity, there's no bend. It's not bending up, it's not bending down, it's not bending at all. It must be linear. So the only way to get the second derivative equal to 0 is to have a linear function. So here, we'll say this is concave up, this is where you're concave down, and then this has to be linear. So this doesn't show up on your sign charts all that often because you usually recognize it ahead of time, but these are your options. So you can have something that is increasing concave up. Increasing concave up things always sort of generally look like this, right? So you can make it more extreme, you can make it less extreme, but that's like your only option. You can have a decreasing concave down, which is usually actually the hardest one for people to remember. I don't exactly know why. Decreasing concave down. So it's like things are bad and they're getting worse is kind of how I think of a decreasing concave down thing. If you have no concavity, concavity is equal to 0, then you definitely have a line. And then if you have no concavity and you have no slope, so it's not sloped up, it's not sloped down, you definitely have a horizontal line. So this is actually maybe, potentially this is the most unique out of all of them. I seem to be choosing the exact same colors again though. So this one I think is probably the most unique of all of them. It's where both of the derivatives are equal to 0. So that's like kind of a weird scenario. So what we're going to do when we curve sketch is we're going to stack our number lines, and with a stacked number line we can decide like what's going on overall, right? So we're going to talk about curve sketching. We're just going to do it, so there's really no need to like talk about it. But what I want to do is make up a set of stacked number lines for you. So what colors did I use? I think I used this, right? So here's f prime. And then let's put some zeros on it. Let's say we have a 0 at -5, and a 0 at 4, and a 0 at 10, right? So the scale doesn't really matter when you do this, as long as things are in the same relative place. And then here I used, I switched up. We're just gonna live with that. F double prime. It's like I really want to go change it, but I'm not going to. Let's say f double prime has a 0 here at, let's say 0, and then maybe this could be 7, and let's say like over here at 15 or something, whatever. Okay, so I'm just gonna make some things up here. I'm gonna go positives. I'm gonna go positives again, go negative, and go positive. Right, so I'm gonna extend this so that I can go all the way through. I'm gonna make up some values here. Let's say negatives, positives, negative. I'll just alternate them, and then positives. Okay, so what do we get out of this? Well, because f prime is so we've got regions, right? So the first region that I'm gonna look at is gonna be, what can I do? This region here. So we have this region. So on this region, f prime is positive, f double prime is negative. F prime is positive, so increasing, f double prime is negative, concave down. So I know that the function looks sort of like this, somehow. And then we move to the next region, which, what color should I use? Kind of, I've used like a lot of the colors that I like. So we have a next region, which is here, right? So f prime is positive, f double prime is negative. So now we are increasing, wait, that's the same. Increasing concave down. All right, so it's still just increasing concave down. That's disappointing. So it still kind of looks like this. Probably just a continuation of that. And then we will have, usually on your sign chart, -5 would show up again, and then it would like kind of mess things up, but it didn't show up because I'm just like making these up. I don't really like this highlighting thing that I'm doing, but I'm gonna keep doing it. So here is our next region. So f prime is positive, so we're increasing. F double prime is positive, so concave up. So we've switched over to something that looks like this. We don't know how extreme, but it doesn't really matter because it's just the shape that matters. Here, still, I'm not in love with this highlighting that I'm doing, but whatever, deal with it. F prime is negative, so we're decreasing. F double prime is positive, so we're concave up. Decreasing, but concave up. Looks like this. So that's going to be a weird transition on your function. It's going to be like a cusp type of situation. That's okay. Or I guess it could be, yeah, no, it's got to be a cusp because of the concavity. To get a sharp turn, you would need the concavity to be 0. You need line segments. All right, so let's keep going. So here we have decreasing concave down. Looks like this. Here, ugh. Colors are gross. We have increasing concave down, which increasing but concave down is another rough transition there. And then finally, for the final one, we have what color do we have left? We have this. We have increasing and concave up. So increasing concave up. So it's possible that the function that we're dealing with looks kind of like this to this. This could look like our function. And it's weird, but we'd like take our puzzle pieces, we put them together. They're like the Legos from which all graphs are created. We put them together and we get this. So we're going to use this fact of the 7 possible curves over and over again. We're going to use stacked sign charts, and we will be able to graph like almost anything as long as we can find the derivative, the second derivative, and the zeros and discontinuities of both of those. We will be good to graph. So we're going to come back in the next video and we're going to actually like do some graphing, which seems like the thing we should really be doing. So I will see you then.